Welcome to part 3 of the video review of Evasion Mode Optimus Prime made by Wei Jiang. This is the oversized version. And in this review we're going to go over the transformation from bot mode to truck mode. And I'll do what I can to try to point out some key things you might want to know and give you an idea of what the experience is like. So, first thing I should mention is that it is more or less the exact same transformation as the original Voyager toy. There is, one major piece that is different, and that specifically is the arms with the new panels to cover up the back of the truck mode. And we'll spend a little bit of time on that as well. But to start the transformation, do as you normally do. I think a lot of people start with the legs. I like to do the same because it basically takes sort of the extra section in the bottom and makes it so that it is more or less one continuous piece and less in the way. So we'll start with the wheels. As I mentioned in a previous video, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you go back and take a look. The wheel covers will come back out from here, and this is a great detail. I like how it covered it up. Visually it looks good from the front and the back. But you fold this up and you'll see here that there is a hole here because there is a peg that will go in there and fit and keep that shut and closed together. And then what you can do is you can take the wheel up top here, it's on this swing joint, and rotate around, and you can see here that there is also a hole for this peg, and that will hold it together nicely. Now, one thing I will note about these holes in these pegs that I just showed, they're not super tight, but they're not loose anyway. There's a little bit of sort of the bend of the plastic holds it in, but if you move it just a little bit, it'll come out quite easily. But it'll also hold in there pretty firm too. You're not going to have to worry about it slipping out or anything of that sort. Okay, once you've got that done, it's probably good to turn the toe around now, because what's different about this one than the original is that it allows you to turn the toe around so that it sits a little bit more flush on the back of the truck when it gets into that mode. So turn around now, because later on you might not have the clearance to do the same. So I recommend you do it while it's in this mode. Once you have that done, straighten the leg out. Normally you could straighten out to be about so that the distance you have to go on this kneecap touches and becomes flush with the thigh. So do it like that, right? Maybe that's too much. There, about like that. And make sure that if you have swiveled this at all, that you straighten it up so that this piece lines up in this middle section right here. See that? Alright, once you have that, you can go ahead and take the leg, and you can see this one's already started to turn, but this piece of the leg actually rotates around like this. See how that goes? Now, one thing I will note too is that this top piece right here, the clearance in here is a little bit on the tight side. It actually will brush against that top piece in the back there, and over time it may rub the paint off. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. The way I see it with paint wear on this thing is that if you look at the movie, all of the robots are basically they've got wear on them in some way. No matter how pristine they look in their alternate mode, they've always got some kind of wear. So if you incur wear, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just look more movie accurate, right? But you may have to push it down just a tad, just to clear that backspace so you can complete the rotation all the way around. You could hear it a little bit as well. But you can see once I get that cleared, then I can rotate this like that to complete the transformation. Now you have to bring this part down, okay, like this, right? And keep the rotation going until you completely go all the way down, right? You want it nice and flush. And here, this piece right here will end up pegging into there. So you can see that goes in like that. And then it comes together nicely. Alright? Make sure you do it nice and tight and firm, and that everything sort of clips together, because if you don't, it'll cause oddness in the wheel alignment when you finish the transformation. So I'll go ahead and do that on the other leg now and do the exact same thing. Okay, rotate the toe around, put this clip up and tab it in, put that wheel there, and then start to move this like that. Bring that in, and then look at this part. Make sure it all clips up nice and tight. Okay. Okay, and of course bend this so that the front is straight aligned and flush. Now normally you could take this and just peg it together like this, but I tend to leave it to last because I find that if I do it now, it'll just pop out at some point through the process, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it and do it last. The next thing you want to do is move up to the upper body. And what you want to do here is you want to open up the chest cavity, because if you're familiar with the original toy, what happens is the chest cavity is actually the piece that holds all of it together. It actually has some help in the clips up here, but I'll show you that right when I get to it. But open this up first, because there's no way you can continue transformation without it. And then what that will actually do is allow you to swing these two pieces downwards and out. What I really like about what Wei Jiang did with this design is there are clips on this upper part here that clip into the sides that hold them there. In the toy Voyager version, they're kind of loose. They can, once you release these windows, these two sides just kind of flop off and fall off. But in this case, it actually has some help from the plastic molding design. And what you want to do is push downward on this just a little bit, okay, and allow this clip to release, and then swing that piece out. So you can see here, I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but it's got an edging on it. See that? And that actually clips on the underside of this hole in here that holds it in place very, very securely and firmly. And I think that's absolutely wonderful that they did that. It just makes the toy that much more firm and secure, and you want to do that on both sides. So again, push this downward a bit. The plastic's a little bit flexible, so you don't have to worry about damaging it. Just to clear the clip from the edge, and then pull it over. Okay, and you can see it's gotten released there. All right, you can see it start coming apart. Now, what you want to do next is to pull this up. Okay, pull it away from there, and then turn around the back. Now, I like to pull these flaps up ahead of time because I always forget, end up doing it late, so I'm going to do them now. I'm also going to go ahead and remove these fuel cans to get them out of the way. Those will eventually peg into the legs at the end of the transformation. Also, these we'll get to in a bit and how they're stored at the bottom, but I'm going to leave those there for now. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to free up the space so that now that we've cleared the spaces here, we can pull this away from the top of the bot. Okay, you can see that going there. Maybe tilt this up just a tad to get that piece of plastic in there out of the way, and then pull it down. Okay, so you can see how that assembly works there. Now, you can see here this is starting to be the front of the truck, so the front of the truck will actually be on the back side of the bot. So keep that in mind as you're going through the transformation, so you don't have to do any pelvis rotations or anything like that, any waist rotations to get the feet to turn around. It's already positioned in more or less the right space. So once you have that down, what I recommend you doing is to just give it a little turn of the legs here like that. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to clear some space because you want this piece right here to peg into this hole right here, and you want that to be really flush. And I think the best way to get it done would be to continue to rotate this a bit forward on the hinge here. Okay. Bend the legs a tad bit, make sure these wheels are spread out, and get that pegged right in there. If you can see that. There you go. Nice and secure, as far deep in as you can go. Right? Okay. Once you have that, what you can do is you can now turn our attention to these panels up here. Now this has always been, I thought has been the fun part, getting the arms around to get in the right position so that they can fold up behind the side panels of the cab. I think some people have found that frustrating, but I rather enjoy it. And what you want to do is first take these new panels out, and don't really unfold them all the way, just get them sort of out of the way, right? So open them up as far as they can reach out and just kind of put them on the side. And then what you want to do is you want to take these panels. I recommend you having this in this sort of up position with the head and this whole assembly kind of facing upward, because that's probably one of the best ways for you to get the clearance that you need in order to get the arms in and around. It's a little bit of fidgeting, but once you get used to it, it's actually really nice and clean. And so what you want to do is you want to align this arm and this part of the arm right here where it rounds out with this rounded out space on the side of the cab. Okay, so rotate your arm this way, bring it in like this, and get this in position so that it's sitting there ready to be turned in, but at the same time clearing this assembly area right here. Okay, and if you want, you can also take the hand and just kind of make it small so it's out of the way. I think that's kind of nice, and you can go like that, and that way there's less things sticking out that have collision with a bunch of other things. But once you get that, you should be able to kind of move this and then rotate this around. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well, but rotate this around and pull this panel down. See how that just kind of clears that? And then in the up position. Now at this point you're going to see that because of this wheel, you're probably going to want these back legs to be in the right angle and have that wheel down in position so that you can have it set in once you pull this thing all the way down into where it's going to be sitting in its resting place. And you can see because we turned that panel out, the panel now is behind, seated in the back of the cab, which we'll later open up to do a little bit of cleanup. Okay, and so once you have in that position, you can see, yeah, it's starting to look a bit like the truck mode that we're trying to get to. Take this hand here, turn it so that you've got it going a bit like this. You're going to want an open hand, and you're going to want his hand to be flush and back, because that way it's going to sit flush inside the cab when we rotate this down. Remember I told you to get this rounded part to align with this rounded part, and that's because this piece just kind of goes like this, right? Kind of goes down like that. And this hand will be inside, sitting in like that. Okay, see how that works? You can push that down. Alright, great. So next you want to do the same on the other side. Again, open up the panel, let it spread out and just kind of sit there. Rotate, take a look at where your window is relative to the two rounded pieces. Just kind of line them up, kind of like that, right? And then close the hand, make it small just so it's out of the way. Get this over here and just begin to close this again. Okay. Just kind of fold this down. There. You can see it come together again. And again, this piece ends up back here. Just kind of sitting there waiting. You can see how they line up and already sort of in their resting place of how they're going to help fold up and hide the back cab. Work the hand, tilt the back, open the fingers, right? And again, this rotating piece right here, rotate it downward like that, and let it close. And in the back, get that hand to rest on the back. Okay? Alright, looking good. Okay, so next, I guess I'll go ahead and peg the feet together just so I can get this back piece to be stable now. The pegs in the back are really nice and super tight. Once you squeeze them together, they're going to stay there for whenever you want it to. No looseness there, no popping apart. I absolutely love how well they did that tolerance. And now I'm going to close these up. Okay, so that goes in. And you know, in the old one, the smokestacks were attached here and they felt folded down into the chest cavity in bot mode, but here there's nothing here and they just fold up. And they're good, and what I like is, you know, the whole inside is kind of dark too, so there isn't really any color bleed through, and that's super nice. And it's really got a nice flush look too. Even without the back covering it, it still looks pretty clean. But once you have that, we're going to leave that for last, and I'll show you why. But you're now going to want to turn your attention to the head. Now the head, I like to turn it around because I find that when I do that, I get a lot more room inside the chest cavity for the final piece to go in. But I turn it around and I swing this piece all the way down, getting that guy in there. Like so. Up. I better give myself some room to get out there. And once that's up, I put it there and get that in there. See that way, and you can go around this back way. You can kind of see where his head ends up in there. See that? And I leave that for the moment, but I can go ahead and close this because I think we're done with this space. Okay. Come back around to the front, and in this part, what you're going to want to do is fold this so that it's facing in like that, right? So it normally will be like that when he's in bot mode, but you want to put it up like this. The reason being is because you need these two pegs to clear the undersides of these pieces in here, so it'll fold up and in like this. I don't know if you saw that. I'll pull it out again. See that? That goes in there. And it has to go under these two places, so you got to go like that, right? Okay, and then you'll push that in, and you'll see on the side here there's these tabs on both sides, and that helps keep the assembly together. And I will mention too that when you pull these two pieces out here, you pull it out like this, you'll notice that it kind of flares out like a butterfly. I think that's actually engineered that way. The reason being is because it gives you room to get these cleared by. And I like that. I feel like it must have been a conscious effort because I need it to do that in order for me to get the tabs to work in really well. You know, these up here don't have that kind of extra spacing, so I have to pull the plastics apart to get in there. But these seem to want to help me out, and I really dig that. So we'll push. I should mention you should pull these wheels aside because there is a slot in here where these will peg into. They're attached to the wheels, and if they're in your space now, when you try to push it down, they're going to get in the way. So move them out of the way and push the face inward so that it lines up with the tabbings. Okay. I recommend you doing the tops first. If you can, pull it a little, give it some room, and then push it in and lock these two bottom ones. Okay. Alright, looking good. At this point you can go look at the bottom, and if you like, you can tab in these pieces right here for the wheels. Now if you see it and you find that this space isn't coming all the way back down to here, that's probably because you're not pushed in as far as you can go. So let me move these out of the way real quick, and see if I can't give it a little bit of force and to get it seated to where it needs to be. There you go. I don't know if you guys saw that, but you can now see that these are more or less lining up, and that will allow me to get these wheels to peg in super nicely like that. Okay, and so once you've got that popped in real good, you can see that these pegs now sit really cleanly inside of these grooves, and that's what you want. And you can proceed up to the top here. And what you want to do here is you want to try to get the panels to go over. Unfortunately, they have to sort of stack over each other a bit, but on the first one, at the very least, you can get a little bit of clearance. Go under. I like to pull it so that the edge here is over to the side of the wheel, but doesn't interfere with the well. If you get into the well, you're going to have problems rotating, so definitely try to keep it outside of that wheel well. And then take the other one. On this one, you're going to have to go under or over, depending on which one you prefer, which one it feels better at. I'm going to go ahead and go over a bit, and then get it in the similar position so that it's hidden well underneath the cab. Okay, and then let's go ahead and turn the vehicle over, and you can see in the back here we've got the top panels for the hands. You can go ahead and take these now and fold them over. You can see there's a tab here that needs to go under there, so you can just kind of work that in. Go like this, and do the same on the other side, and get those all nice and lined up. Now, because this is a hinge of this nature, you're probably going to want to make it so that this is relatively flat. So try to even that out as best you can, so that one panel isn't necessarily higher than the other. You can see how this is a little bit misaligned here. You probably do better. Get it nice and flat and even. And you got the tab all set, and the top of the cab is nice and completed. Now, coming to the front, we'll go ahead and bring this panel down. And really quickly, I want to point out that a lot of people have talked about the alignment of the windows, and I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about. And they're talking about how it could have been fixed. I think the problem has to do with these lines lining up well with these lines, top and bottom. You can, they definitely can have issues when transforming, but if you do it right, I think you can get them to line up pretty nicely. I think it has a lot to do with whether or not you're getting any gappage between here, and whether or not this is flushly lined. But if you do it well, I think you can minimize the amount of gapping that you'll get in this space, and you can get some pretty good alignment. But I have noticed that even though this is flush right here in the front, what you always end up getting is this gapping right here. I don't know how well that's coming through on the camera, but you can see that this part right here sticks out just a tad bit, no matter how flush this area gets. So that's something you're going to want to take note of. But in general, I don't really see a problem with the window lines lining up in any way. Okay, and you come around to the back, and we had these panels laying out there ready to sort of finish the piece off. You'll notice at the top, the original Voyager doesn't have this because this panel mechanism wasn't part of the original design, but they did include two pegs for you to attach these panels to. And what you want to do is you want to take these panels and open them up kind of like this, right? So they fold out kind of a sandwich board style, if you will, right? So go ahead and do that on both sides. And then what's going to happen is these are going to fold up. Now, really quickly, let me open this back up a little bit so that you can take a look at these. What you want to prepare this a little bit by giving this a little bit of bend, kind of like that, right? Because these are going to have to compress in just a tad so that the panels can lie flush against the back. So do that ahead of time, you'll save yourself a little bit of trouble, but it's nice to have that ready to go. So we can close these back up. Okay, put this up, tab it in. Okay, same here, push it up and tab it in. And like I said, if you do that a little bit of prep, you see how it sticks out like this right here? Because you did that a little bit in advance, you can push it like that and it'll just kind of lay flat and flush. Okay. And there you have a nice concealed back of your cab. And then you can take these smokestacks, fold them in like that, and extend them. For the classic, iconic G1 smokestacks. And we're pretty close to the final product here. So now, put that there. I'm going to grab the cans which we had taken off earlier on. And you know, I had them in sort of the detailed mode, but you're going to want to flip them out and get them smooth because you know you don't have that detail in truck mode. And do the same with the other one. Okay. Gonna have to move the gun out of the way to be able to do that. Now it doesn't really give me a really good finger hold to get in and grab this, so I'm gonna do what I can. And then flip it around to the smooth side. Close it up. And if you take a look, see if I can get this to focus here. You'll notice that these are round here, but then when it gets down to the end of it, it's kind of a square peg, right? And that's there for a reason. If you take a look inside of the hole here, and I don't know if we're going to be able to catch on the lighting here very well, but deep inside there, it's actually square as well. And the reason it's doing that is because it wants you to be sure that when you plug this in, the square piece lines up with the square component there, so that it's not a crooked angle, right? So I'll take this and plug it in, and you can kind of tell whether or not you got it right, because if you take a look at it and you're not sticking in all the way, then you probably haven't lined up the square pegs right. But if you push and you get in just right, let's see, then that piece will go in just like that, and it'll sit nice and flush, right? Do the same on the other side. Take it in, line up the square, plug in, and watch go all the way in, then you're good. And then you've got the two tanks on the side, and they're straight with the truck, right? Okay. And finally, you can take the windows, pull them out, they are hinged. So you get that kind of like the MP10. And there you have the completed transformed M01 Evasion Mode Optimus Prime by Wei Jiang, which is very nice. Excellent. Alright, so in the next video, we will do two things. We will take a look at my thoughts and review of the truck mode itself, detailing, design, feel, all that, and we'll also do a reverse transformation going from truck mode back to the bot mode. Okay? Thanks for watching, and hope you catch my next video.